Hello and welcome to another Python tutorial video. Today we'll be covering routing in Python Flask. Make sure to rewatch this video as many times as you can, especially if you're not familiar with web applications, because this is one of the most important videos or concepts to get down right. Now, what exactly do we mean by Python Flask and routing? Well, routing is a general term for how do we get to a specific URL. A URL, we've all seen many URLs. For example, here's maps from google.com, and intuitively they allow us to structure our web applications in a way where we can go, here's our about page, here's our login page, etc., so that we don't have everything cluttered on a single page. Now, in Flask, let's go through exactly how Flask does this. I'm in my directory called videos in /vid2, and I've got a virtual environment set up using Python 3.6, and I've also activated it. Let's run our application before we get going. There we go. It's the Hello World program we wrote in the previous video. Now let's say we wanted to define another route. Let's say I want to go to my home page, and I want to return, this is my home page. Now let's go back and go to our home page, and there we go. This is my home page. So we went through this in our last video. Let's add one more route just to illustrate the point even further. Let's go /home/ Hussein, for example, and let's go, this is Hussein's page. Let's rerun the program, and we're getting an error. And let's go to /home/ Hussein, and there we go. This is Hussein's page. The error we were getting from before is because we had the same function mapped to the same to a different URL. So over here, home and home were mapped to two different URLs. Not allowed in Python Flask, so we have to rename this to something else, whatever suits your needs. Now, to illustrate the point even further, let's go about and let's create another home page, let's say for Sam, and say this is Sam's page. And let's make sure to rename our function, run our application again, let's refresh, and let's go to Sam. Okay. Now, this is all well and nice, but it's getting a little bit tedious, especially when we want home to stay consistent, and the only thing we want to change is this name over here. Now, this gets us to a specific Python Flask feature, namely variables in our URLs. What we can do, instead of repeating ourselves a numerous amount of times, we can wrap this section of the route URL in angle brackets, and let's give it a name. Let's say name. Now this name will vary. And how do we grab that in our functions? Well, it's passed in as a parameter. And now all we need to do is concatenate it. Now let's go back, refresh our page. This is Sam's page. Let's go to Hussein, and there we go. So that's how we can use variables in our routes to make them more dynamic, and we don't need to repeat ourselves various times. This is useful, especially if you have, let's say, a profile page for each specific user that will render depending on maybe their name and grab different information. Some things to note here: this parameter needs to be the exact same name as your URL parameter you put in. So let's change this to, let's say, name1, and refresh our page. We are going to get a type error saying we got an unexpected keyword argument name1. So the URL variable and the function variable need to be the same name. Now, if this line is scaring you, it should. If it isn't scaring you, think about why it would scare another person. Notice this plus, and notice what it's doing in the browser. Let's fix this up once again. This is a string concatenation. In other words, the type of name is implicitly a string. Now, that's a Python quirk, nothing we can really do about it, except something nice Flask gives us is we can specify the type of the URL variable. And now when it's passed into this function, it is passed in as whatever you've put it in here. So that's a string. Also available is int. So this will be passed in as an int. So if we now try to concatenate a string and an integer, we're expecting an error. Well, let's first pass in a number. And there we go. Cannot concatenate string and int objects. So that's one way of specifying variables and their types in their URLs. Now, the last thing I want to go through is what exactly, so let's delete this route. Let's refresh. Now let's just go back to home page. Hello world. And let's notice the output. Let's actually look at the output this time. So here we're at home page. Now let's go to home. And let's notice the output down the bottom over here. So here we're going get slash home and then get slash forward slash by itself. Get refers to the HTTP method. Now, if you don't know what exactly that is, I advise you to watch our HTTP video that will go through get and post and why they're important. In Python Flask, by default, routes are set to get. If you want to be more explicit in your routes, then what you can do is you can specify what methods it can accept. So in this case, this method will accept get, which won't change anything by default. Still the same. And get slash home. Now, another HTTP method we usually use is called post. Now let's see what will happen. So here we've got an error, method not allowed. That's because this route only accepts post. And whenever we do a search in our search engine for any web page, we're doing a get request. So here we're doing a get. This route doesn't accept a get and only accepts post. Therefore, it will return some error. Can we accept both? Of course we can. We just write get. And let's go back. And now this route accepts both get requests and post requests. How exactly do we initiate a post request? We'll go through that when we go through Flask and forms in a later video. That's all for this video. Thank you.